Good morning, it's chocolate orange time again. Not done one for a while. Decided to do this little turtle or little tortoise. I think he's more of a tortoise than a turtle because they're not really flippers, are they? So here he is with his little smiley face. He's nice and simple to do. As you can see, if you like granny squares, you're going to love this one because it's very granny square-esque. And obviously there's my rather battered chocolate orange because this is my display one. So it's the one I use if I'm actually practicing any design. So you can see under his tummy there. So he's got little chubby feet, little tail, and this cute little face there as well. So this is what we're going to be doing today. It doesn't take that long because this bit's quite quick compared with normal. So I'm going to just pop him there. We have double knit yarn. I've just chosen 3 shades. I've got the 2 shades of green and sort of, I don't know, a stony colour. You could do him any colour. He would look great in some really bright colours, but I thought I'd keep sort of turtley colour, if that makes sense. I have a tiny bit of toy stuff in for his head and his feet. I have some 6mm safety eyes. Now, as I've mentioned, particularly if it's meant for a younger person, I'd probably recommend stitching the eye details on with yarn rather than using the safety eyes. They are good. I definitely wouldn't use beads or anything unless it's a definite going to an adult because you don't want that risk. It's easy done. I know what kids are like. So I'll pop them to one side. So they're my eyes. I have my normal scissors, etc. And I have a little stitch marker. I found when I made it I didn't really need the stitch marker, but because I'll be talking while we're doing this, you may need one just to mark where you're going. So I'll pop that to one side as well. And it would be a good idea to mention the hook, wouldn't it? The hook I am using is a 3.5mm that I've just dropped. Please remember I'm using UK terms here because I know hook sizes can vary depending where you are, and obviously the terms I'm referring to are UK terms, so it might be worth getting a conversion chart or having a little look on the conversions on the internet if you're not quite sure what the differences are. So let's get going. We start from the top. So I'm going to start with this green. So let's move everything else out of the way. We'll pop him there. He can watch us. I can tell I've used this yarn quite a lot because it's slowly getting towards the end, so it's undoing. Now we're going to start with our slip knot. Not too tight on the hook, remember. And we're going to do 6 chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we're going to join with a slip stitch into that first chain to create us a little loop for us to start working in. Okay, make sure you know where the loop is. Sometimes it's easy to go in a stitch rather than the actual loop, but it's there. The hole is there. Now we're going to do 3 chain. 1, 2, and 3. Now that 3 chain does count as our first treble. Now into this hole we're going to do 2 more trebles. Let's say if you know your granny squares, you're going to recognize what I'm doing. And then another treble. So there's 2 trebles there. Now we need a little space, which means we're going to do a 2 chain, 1 and 2, and then I'm going to do a set of 3 trebles into this space. So that is 1, 2, and 3. Can you see? So we've got 3, the equivalent, because you count that as treble, remember, the equivalent to 3 trebles, 2 chain, 3 trebles. So we need 2 chain again, 1 and 2, and another 3 trebles. 1, 2, oh, nearly dropped it, and 3. So we've got 3 sets now, so 2 chain and another set. Or not. Try that again. There we go, so 3 trebles. 1, 2, and 3. Now if you were doing just a granny square, you would say, well, I've got my 4 points now, but we need 5, so we're going to do 5 at the top here. Gives him a bit of extra shaping. So I need another 2 chain, and then just squeeze it round if you think there's not enough space, and 3 more trebles. 1, 2, and 3. Now I know in most patterns it would now say 2 chain and then slip stitch into the top of that 3 chain. I don't want to do that because I think you can ultimately get left with a large space. You end up with all the spaces, but then one seems a little bit large. So all I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to slip stitch into the top of that first 3 chain. Now, yes, it makes it very close, and you look at it like that and you go, well, where am I supposed to go now? Just separate. So you've got 3 on each side, and that is our hole. So 3 chain, 1, 2 and 3, treble into that hole. It'll start to open up as you do it, so you don't need to worry about it. And another treble. So each of these spaces become our corners. So this has to be a corner. So if it's a corner, it's 3 trebles, 2 chain, 3 trebles. So we do our 2 chain, and into the same space another 3 trebles. 1, 2 and 3. And as you can see, it's opened the space up anyway, so there was no need to worry about putting chains in. But if you do put chains in, it just makes it a little bit looser. That's the only reason. But if you prefer that method, please carry on. Now, we didn't know, oh, I can't speak. We need no chain here. We're going to go straight for this next hole, and it's a corner, so it's 3 trebles. Two chain. And another 3 trebles into that same space. 1, 2 and 3. And we're going to do the same in every single one of these corners. So we've got 1, 2, 3 more, and in each of those 3 it's 3 trebles, 2 chain, 3 trebles. Off we go. Now, say if you're used to granny squares, you'll find this quite easy. If you're not, maybe have a look at a granny square tutorial. I do have a basic one on there, but other people do as well. So always check that out, see which one suits you the best. That's another set done. Can you see how the corners come when you do that? Yeah? Right, well, we've got 2 more sets to go. I'm saying 1 more, we've got 2 more. So we have 3 trebles. If I'm going a little bit fast, you can always pause me or maybe slow me down in the settings, another 3. So in each corner, there's always 2 sets of 3 with 2 chain between them. Otherwise, you won't get your corner points. Right, we have 1 more corner to do, so we should have 5 corners. So it's 1, 2, 3, 2 chain, and another 3. Into the space. 1, 2 and 3. So we're back to the beginning again. So we are just going to do a slip stitch join in the top of that first 3 chain. Okay, so I'm just going to stop there a second, because now, yes, we still have our 5 corners, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, but we also have side little spaces, and in a side it will just be, I'm double checking because I did alter this from what I would normally do. Let me double check where we are. We're there. Right, yes, I'm going to change it slightly. Normally it would be 3 in each, but I need it to start pulling round him. So from now on, the combinations are going to be 2 trebles. But if it's a side, it will just be 2 trebles. If it's a corner, it will be 2 trebles, 2 chain, 2 trebles. And that is what we will repeat all the way round. So off we go. I was about to carry on doing a granny, well, it's not a granny square, is it? You know what I mean, it's 5-sided. 1, 2, 3, and just 1 treble. Now, if you're used to doing the 3s, that takes some practice, because you forget what you're doing and end up going into 3s, because that's what I was doing. So a 2, jump straight to this corner, and it's going to be 2 trebles, 2 chain, 2 trebles. So your corners, as I say, are just 2 trebles, 2 chain, 2 trebles. Yeah, it's still a corner, you still get that point. The next one is definitely a side, so that is just going to be 2 trebles. By doing the 2 instead of 3, it just starts to shape it round rather than keeping it flat. Into this corner we have 2 trebles, 2 chain, and 2 trebles. We have a side, so it's just 2 trebles. The only time there's any chain is in the corners, but after this round there won't even be that, but it's only in the corners. So we have 2 trebles, 2 chain, 2 trebles. You see it's already starting to curl, but don't worry about that, we'll push it out in a few minutes. Right, side, so it's just 2 trebles, 1 and 2, corner, 1, 2, 2 chain, 1, 2, 2 trebles, because it's a corner. We have a side, I think this is the last side, it looks like it, 2 trebles, into the corner, 2 trebles, because it's a corner, 2 chain, and then 2 trebles, 1, 2, and we are round. But you can see it's definitely curling up, isn't it? But that's good, that means it's going in the right direction. So slip stitch in the top of that 3 chain, and let's just push this out. So just push it out gently, because that is your right side. We are now going to change again, and we're going to get rid of corners completely, and in every single space we're just going to do 2 trebles. That's it. There's no chain at all, and we're going to do that combo for 3 rounds. So we have to start with 3 chain because it's the beginning, and then 1 treble directly below is our first 2 treble equivalents. So now we've got a hole here, a hole here, so there's 2 on the sides and 1 on the corners. I mean, that won't matter in a minute, but so that we need just a 2 in this one, because we're going to do just 2s in every one. Now you've got a corner coming up, so you're going to be tempted to put those chains in. Don't. It is just 2 trebles. It pulls it, really pulls it round. That is it. Jump to the next space. You can see your spaces. If you're not sure, just sort of give them a wiggle so you can check where your spaces are, because if your work's a bit tight, sometimes it's hard to see it. And that's the other thing, you need to be checking onto your turtle, because depending on what your tension is like, it could be too loose or too tight, or the yarn might be slightly different. So it's always best to check on your sizing. So I am just doing 2 trebles into every single space, including just 2 in the corners. So we're losing the corners completely. You can see that's a corner, but we're only doing 2. It's so tempting to do a proper corner though when you see one. I know I've done it myself. Corner, side, corner, side. Well, there's going to be no corners at all after this round, because we will have got rid of them all. It will just be spaces between the 2 trebles. Almost there. And our last one, just 2 trebles, and slip stitch into the top of that first 3 chain. So you can see how we're getting the shape. I'm just going to take this one off. You want it quite tight because they do stretch a little bit, but just make sure. Yep, I'm comfortable with that. That's going round nicely. So that was round 1, where we had no corners at all. Now it's a little bit difficult to see your spaces. When you get used to it, you know where they are. But if you just remember, you will have 2 stitches, then a space, 2 stitches, then a space. So we're going to start with our 3 chain again, 1, 2, and 3, and directly below 1 treble. So that's our first 2. So you miss 2, and there's your space. And we do 2 trebles. No chains anywhere to be seen at this point. We're just going in between the sets of 2 trebles with 2 trebles. Really warm under this light today. I could do it putting my fan on, but it makes such a noise. You're not going to hear anything apart from the fact I'm using all the sockets for this light that's above me and the other bits and bobs, the computer stuff and that I've got put in. So I'm just going to have to be warm. I've got a drink ready. So I'm planning on doing a couple of videos back to back here. They won't all go on at once, but I like to sort of get them done and then I know where I am. So I've got a lot to do at the moment, all exciting. I did mention about the book to some of you. I don't know which video I mentioned it, but yes, I've signed a contract with Search Press to be doing a crochet book. So excited about that. So I do need to get some work done for that as well. And I do have a few commissions to do at the minute as well. Almost round. So this is the second, as I say, of 3 where it's just 2 in each space. A second round of 3, should I say. Originally, I was thinking of maybe teachers' gifts towards the end of the year. I think the chocolate orange covers make great gifts for things like that. People are usually really pleased to get one. But I know we're coming towards the end of the term here. I don't know where you are. It might be different. Right, top of that 3. So we're now on our last round of just trebles. So 3 chain, 1 treble directly below. And then again, exactly the same, find your spaces between the 2 sets, and that is going to be 2 trebles in every single one. And then we're going to be changing the stitches after this. As I say, if I'm going a little bit too fast, if you're not used to this particular technique, I think it's probably best just to pause it and just do that 2 trebles in each one and then come back to me when I change the direction of what we're working in. Because we're almost over the actual shell. But I know everybody works at a different pace and it is really hard to find that balance. I know I've asked some people have asked me to slow down, but then some people say it's okay. Then I've watched other people's videos to see what they do, and sometimes they fast forward it even. And I'm like, oh, well, if I'm too fast, I can't fast forward. So I think the pausing method or slowing it down in the settings is probably the easiest option. I know I would pause if I'm doing something and I want to sort of check what someone's doing. I pause, look what I'm doing, rewind and do it again. Couple more to go, and then we're going to be going on to double crochets. One more. And slip stitch join in the top of the first 3 chain. So now we have the trebles are done basically. Well, the trebles are done for this shell. We do need a treble for something else later, but not at the moment. So I'm going to do 1 chain here because I'm going to be doing a double crochet row, and you do need to just go in the top of each of the trebles for this. So that chain I'm not counting as a stitch. I'm going to go directly below it. It just shows me where I'm stopping and starting. So 1 treble in the top of every single 1 treble. Did I say 1 treble? Oh, I'm terrible. 1 double crochet in the top of each treble, all the way around to the start point. Remember, when I refer to a double crochet, if somebody's sort of coming part way, it is a UK double crochet, which I do understand. If I say double crochet, I think it is a treble, is it not, in the US? I'm pretty sure that's the case. But it does sort of cause a little bit of confusion. I know it's done it with me. I've bought patterns and they've been these gorgeous American patterns, and I've started doing it as if it's an English pattern, and then thinking, oh, well, that's not turned out right, and it's purely because I've not converted it. We've all been there. But do be careful when you're buying patterns, depending what country you come from. Always check the country of the origin of the pattern in case you do need a conversion chart. It's easy done just to get one and go, oh yeah, great, I know all those stitches, and then suddenly realise it's from somewhere else and your pattern's not worked. So always double check. most pattern providers will actually write on what terms they are. Right, so we are round. Now the next round, I'm not going to put a stitch marker in. As I say, I've got one, but I don't think it's really necessary at this point, because what I want to do is, because we have to work on, see this little shelly bit, this sort of, yeah, can't think of the word, little sort of fan shapes all the way around. They worked in a front loop. So now we need to do a round of back loop double crochets. Now I've talked about this before, but if you're not sure, I'll take this out. You can see there is the two parts of the chain. Well, if we're going back loop, it's just literally in the back one. It feels a little loose when you're doing it, but it is important that we do it at this point. So in they go. So it's back loop and it's just a double crochet. Back loop, it's a double crochet all the way around. Again, it's one of those that when you've done it a few times, you get into the flow of it. It does feel weird when you first do it though. So just one double crochet into every back loop of the previous row's double crochet. It just makes it easier for you to pick up the stitches when you're adding on that shell edge. And you don't have to have that shell edge, you could just do it rounded. I just thought it gave it a little bit more of a feature, because I think a tortoise shell does sort of flip out, doesn't it, at the edges. As I say, I've not put the stitch marker in because you can usually tell where you started to do the back loop ones. If you're a little unsure on that, pop that stitch marker in. That's what they're there for, to help us guide where we're going. Amazing things. Right, I'm almost round. Then I'll explain why, well, how it's there. So we've got a couple more. Make sure we get all of them. It will make it difficult if you don't. There we go. So can you see it sort of creates this little ridge here? Because that's that little ridge we are going to work into after the fact. So that is the reason we did a back loop there. Oh, I nearly knocked my light then. I've got my hair up into a bun and it was going to knock it. Right, I'm going to now change colour. I'm going to change to what I'm going to class as his tummy colour and his legs and arms, because I've got a magnet here on my needles. So I'm going to just snip that off and we will remove that. We will need that later because it is the one, no, we won't need that later. What am I on about? I was going to say it's the colour for his legs. It's not, is it? This is the colour for his legs. We're now just going to work on this little bit here. Okay. So I'm not going to worry about doing any fancy joins or anything. It's only one stitch. I'm not going to be changing any other colour, and it's underneath the shell part, so you're not actually going to see it. So all I'm going to do is full stitch this time. Okay, so fully in. Yeah, I'm going to grab the new yarn and pull it through and pull it through. Okay, that will want tying off though, but for now I'm just going to do one round of double crochet in this sort of stony colour, or whatever colour you've decided you're going to do his tummy. Let me just mark where we are. This is, again, you need to start checking on your orange from now on, because some people may need an extra round. If your stitches are a little bit looser, you may not need that extra round, or you may even need to reduce a round. So always keep an eye on that. It's like when you're making the doll items as well. As much as I say, oh, I've made this, it fits my Cindy, or whatever, because of my type of tension, it might work for me, but not necessarily for you. But I do mention that when I'm doing the doll things, and sort of mention a few ways of to keep an eye out for it. But the best thing to do is have the object there, like we've got our orange here, and try it on it. Almost round. I am going to pop my, oh, in fact no, I won't go pop my stitch marker in. I was going to, but I don't really need to. If you've kept it already in, it's already in place. For a start, we know now we are round because we've matched colour to colour. So I'm going to actually do a slip stitch in the next one. slip stitch because I'm doing a half treble round. So that means 2 chain and 1 half treble. Just a quick reminder on the half treble. Starts like a treble, you go in the stitch, you pull it through. It still looks like a treble, but instead of coming through 2s, you're going to pull through the whole lot. Yeah, off we go again. So it goes through the whole lot. So it does start like a treble, and that is why sometimes you do it and you end up doing a treble, because that's what it feels like. So this is a half treble round. Using the half treble allows a little bit more stretch for it to go over the orange, and also it speeds it up a little bit. Half trebles are great for that, and you can work a half treble in an amigurumi style as well. So that is why I do use them. You can't really do it with a treble. If you're working with a treble, you have to stop start, which means you can sometimes get that line, which I don't like. So I would at the most do a half treble if I was doing amigurumi. You might notice I do sometimes sort of stretch my work as I go. I do find crochet closes in on itself, so you do have to every now and again give it a little stretch. I suppose it's the same as if you were making a blanket and you were blocking it. I'm very guilty of not blocking. I'm afraid if I've made a blanket in this house, so by the time grandkids have had hold of it and everything else, there's no point blocking it because it ain't going to stay the same shape anyway. But yeah, if you are blocking your work, it's the same thing really. It's just giving it a little stretch into position. And I do that stretching when I'm working on anything else. Right, we're round. Remember that was 2 chains at the top of that 2 chain. And I'm going to do a little fit to check. So here's my orange, as I say. I'm going to give it, because it looks tight that. You think it's not going to go over, but as I say, it does need to be tight. And we're going to push it on. And you can see I'm almost there. I'm going to do 1 more double crochet round, but you have a look at yours. You might think, actually, no, I'm there. That's enough. Or you may think you need an extra 2. This is something you'll have to sort of work out depending on your tension. So I'm going to do 1 more round, and I'm going to put my stitch marker in now because I'm talking and I'm not going to see where I am. So 1 more round of 1 double crochet into every half treble. And then we've done, the body is done, should I say. We then need to deal with the head, the feet, and the little tail. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you watch all 4 feet. We're just going to do the one, and then I will leave you to do the others. They don't take long anyway. But I know it'd be a bit tedious for you to actually watch me doing it. So this is just 1 double crochet into every half treble. The reason I finished off, I mean, you could have done another half treble round if you want, but it's weird because I say to you, do a half treble because it allows stretch, which it does. And then I'm saying, well, do a double crochet round, which actually tightens it. But I don't want the orange to drop out. I want it to sort of curl round the bottom of the orange. And that is why my last row round is just a double crochet one. I would never do a slip stitch round to finish off, as much as I like slip stitch rounds to make things neat, because that would actually make it too tight. So we're doing a slip stitch there though, because we're finished. Snip. I will remove my little stitch marker and we will have another check to make sure he's comfy on the orange. So for now, obviously these ends, there's a couple that want tying up, there's a couple that want sewing in, but for now I'm going to check it fits before I do any details, because I'm classing the shell as a detail, the scallop as a detail. So if you're happy with that, what I normally do is I put it on a flat surface and look to see if I can see the bottom of the orange, but I know that's the same size as the other one, so I'm happy with that. So let's squeeze him back out. I mean, I'm saying we've got feet and heads, I'm forgetting my little scallopy bit. So I need a darker colour or a contrast colour. You can do it the same if you want. Mustn't pull that out from there. It started coming out from the middle. Now, are you the sort of person who pulls your yarn out from the centre, or do you start on the outside? I know purists seem to like to start from the centre. Every time I do that, I get yarn everywhere and it doesn't work. So I always start on the outside. I know it means that the ball runs around a little bit more, but at least I'm not going to, I think somebody call it yarn bath to me. I'm sure it was. It just all like its intestines drop out and then I have to sit and untangle it, which I find very irritating. Right, we better get this little scallopy thing done. It's easy enough. I'm going to start at the back and you can see where we got those little loops sticking up. So we'll go with that one. So you can see that there. And I'm going to pull this through. I'm going to do a chain and then I'm going to double crochet back into it. That anchors it. That's the only reason I've done that. We can tighten that up later. Now we're going to do 3 chain, 1, 2 and 3. We're going to miss 2 of these, 1 and 2, and into this one we do a double crochet. And you're going to repeat that round. So we're going to do 1, 2 and 3. We miss 1 and 2, and into number 3 we do a double crochet. So 1, 2 and 3, miss 2 and into the double crochet. Let me just tighten that up a little bit because it's going to be loose. Now I don't know whether you noticed, but I've sort of like folded it where that line is, and by folding it means I can see it easier. But again, you might have a different way of doing it, but that's just how I thought I'd mention how I do it. So 3 chain, 1, 2 and 3, miss 2, into number 3. Now this is just basically the chain that we're going to sit the scallop on. So 1, 2, 3, miss 2 and into number 3. 1, 2 and 3, miss 2 and into number 3. 1, 2 and 3, miss 2 and into number 3. 1, 2, 3, miss 2 and number 3. 2 and 3. You get into the routine of it after a few minutes. Miss 2 and in. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 and 3. Miss 2, 1, 2 and into number 3, and you can see that is near as you can possibly get to your next one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slip stitch into there. In fact, I'm not. Watch. Don't do what I do. Do what I say. Take it out. Because I went wrong. Right, because I can't slip stitch. I need to double crochet into the next chain space. If I tied that off, I wouldn't have had a worry. And just why sometimes it's best to get rid of your ends first. So 1 double crochet, 1 half treble, 1 treble, 1 half treble and 1 double crochet. And that is the combination in every single one of those 3 chain spaces. So off we go. 1 double crochet, so you literally just jump into it. 1 half treble, 1 treble, 1 half treble and 1 double crochet. For the next one, just jump straight in, double crochet, half treble, treble, half treble, double crochet. So you can see that is what we're doing. I mean, it just creates this little scallop all the way around. So we've got a few more to do yet. There's not many more. Oh, my chair felt a bit creaky there. One of the wheels on my chair is actually partially off, so I've got to really keep still, because otherwise we're going to have an interesting video, because I'm just going to crash to the floor. Next scallop, double crochet, half treble. I need to take the wheels off, but I like moving around on the wheels. Half treble and double crochet. I need a new chair really. Double crochet, half treble, treble, half treble and double crochet. About halfway around now. It's a nice way of adding a little frill to anything really, this combination. So it just builds it up, doesn't it? So you go from the inside length of stitch, and that is how it works, like that. So that's the one's a treble, half treble's a little bit smaller, and a double crochet smaller again. So we'll try that again. You see, we have a little double crochet, we have a slightly longer half treble, we have a long treble, we have a shorter half treble, so it's going back down again, and we have a double crochet. We have a double crochet, half treble, treble. I suspect most of you just paused me and got on with this, but somebody might be there. Hello, if you're there, give me a hello in the comments if you're staying with me. And double crochet, half treble, treble, half treble, and double crochet. We've got one more to go, one more. Here we go. Double crochet, half treble, treble, into that wool a little bit, half treble, and double crochet. And now we can slip stitch into there. Trying to slip stitch when I shouldn't have been. And little snip, and it just gives us an extra end to sew in at the end, so you can see where that is. So pull that back out now. Yep. So you can see we've got that little scallop there. So that dark green can definitely go out of the way now. And I think, should we start on his little face first? We will, I think, because it's got a little bit more detail. We can bring in these tiny little safety eyes I have. And I've gone back to this colour, but depending obviously what you're working on, you could do them all different colours. Do a rainbow one. He would look really cute. We're going to start with our slip knot. I'll move my scissors out of the way as well. And yes, we're typical amigurumi coming up. We're going to do 2 chain. We're going to do 6 double crochets into that first chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So that is our starting point. Now again, like most of my amigurumi, we're now going to do 2 double crochets into each of those 6. If you're not sure where the first one is, count from the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's there. Make sure you get both loops. So back in, and 2 in each now. It'll give us 12 stitches. So we have, oh well, we don't have, because I've caught it. We have 1, 2, that's our number 2. This is number 3, number 4, that's 2 in each. So I'm only counting one number, but it's 2 in each. Number 5, and one more, number 6. So we should now have 12 stitches. I'm just tightening up that a little bit. I'm going to have one more increase because I want his head obviously bigger than his feet, and it's going to be 2 double crochets in the first one, 1 in the second, and that is going to be all the way around, and we should end up with 18 stitches on that. Oh, my stomach just rumbled. That's a 2 and a 1. That's one set. There's actually 6 of these. There's a 2 and a 1. That's my second set. A 2 and a 1, set number 3, a 2 and a 1, set number 4, a 2, a 1, number 5, one more set to go, so 2 in this one and 1 in the next one. So now we should have 18 stitches. We're going to do a double crochet round. Up to you if you want to pop in your stitch marker. I'm going to count as 18 stitches. Okay, so bear with me on that one. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, you can see it curling, but that's good. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18. So as I say, it's curling, so we need to push it out because this is our right side out and we need that showing. We're going to be doing a little bit of decreasing. I'm only going to do 1 round of decreasing before I put the eyes in because it's hard to put the eyes in. And it's going to be 2 double crochets together, 1 double crochet. times 6, so we're bringing number back down again. So 2 together, just a reminder, we pull it through, we don't finish the stitch, we push it through, we don't finish that stitch, we should have 3. I'm going to pull the yarn through all 3, and that's a decrease, then just 1 on its own. I'm going to mark those down because I need 6 sets. That was 1. Okay, so 2 together and 1. Two together, keep turning it back out if it curls in, and 1. Make sure you get the right stitch. 2 together and 1. So that's our 4. We need 2 more sets. See, if you see, can you see how it looks as if you should go in there? Be careful, because that's where that one's come from. It's not, it's the next one. It's really easy to do that. That's why I was double checking on that last one, because I nearly did it. 2 together and 1, and our last 2 together, 2 together and 1. Okay, so we now need to look at these safety eyes. You can position it where you want. Sometimes it's quite cute. Oh, quite cute to have the eyes quite high. I've done them quite wide apart. I haven't put them both in together because it's hard to get in, but I know I want it approximately there and there. So my sort of safety eyes are dome up, so I'm just going to have to turn it inside out to actually push it on. Use a hard base. If the eye is pointing down, you might need something soft so you don't scratch the eye, but because this is leaning on the other side of the crochet, it doesn't matter. So now I want 2 pops. Right, that's great. I say your safety eyes might be different, but mine pop twice. So that's 1. Now, what do we think? About there? I think that looks about right, doesn't it? Turn it back inside. You might get the other eye in the way, so it's a bit of a fiddle that, because it's only quite small. So get it in position so it's on, and then 2 clicks. Oh, don't want to go this one. There we go. Sometimes they're really hard on your fingers. Again, they're all different, but I do quite like these I'm using. So we have a little face. Oh, look, it's so cute. Right, so now we need to still get the right stitch. Don't get the wrong one. We still need to be decreasing, and it's basically we're going to do 2 together all the way around. Now we're down to 12 stitches, so that means that's going to be 6 times again. So 2 together times 6. That's 1, 2, 3. It does get tight because those eyes get in the way as well. 4, 5, and 6. So now we are down to 6 stitches, so we really need to get some stuffing in there if we're going to do it, because the smaller it gets, the harder it gets. I always just shove my yarn in as well. It allows us a bit of stuffing at the same time, and we're not wasting the yarn that way. So just push it in, grab a tiny bit of the toy stuffing. In fact, I'm going to move the hook because it's not easy to do with the hook in the way. And I'm going to lengthen my stitch first before I do anything, because I'm going to lose it. And then I'm going to try and pop some of this stuffing in. It is hard to put in with this one. I do find the scissors are quite a good way of doing it, but just be careful. You are not going to sort of poke through your work if you're using scissors. And that might be enough for now, because I don't think I'm going to get any more in at this point. There's still time, because we're not going to close the hole up. Not just yet. So there's still a little bit of space. Quite often you have to move the eyes about, because can you see what it's done? The backs of the eyes have misshaped him, so you usually do have to reposition the eyes to get the back parts flat. So off we go. We're going to do just 1 double crochet into each. 1. There's 6 stitches now, remember. 2, 3, try not to catch the stuffing. 4, 5, and 6, and we're going to do that again. So 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3. You can see how tight it's getting now. 4, 5 and 6. It just gives, because a turtle has sort of like a little bit of a long neck, don't they, there? So I'm going to have one more, so that'll be 3 rounds. And that should be more than enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My last stitch and 6. And I'm going to do a slip stitch to finish. So I haven't actually closed it up, but you don't need to worry about that, because when you're going to stitch it on, you're not going to see. Now we could do with a tiny bit of stuffing in his neck, which is going to be really quite awkward. But again, I'm going to use my scissors, and it just helps push it in. I don't know why it works like that, it just does. I know I use tweezers if it's a small tiny object. I think that's okay. I'm just going to cut that bit off and then push the final bit in. So we have our head. Make sure the eyes are in position nice. You can sew your detail on now if you want. I've just used some black yarn. So you see I've taken it straight across and then done 2 little nostrils. Now the neck I've done, because again, as you can see on this, it sort of sticks out a little bit like that. So that would actually be sewn on. I decided where the back was, which is usually where you started all your stitches. So this is the front, and this is where I stitch the little head into place. So it's like that. Yeah, stitching into place can make a massive difference, so you might need to play about with that until you're happy with his positioning. I actually put it on the orange to stitch. In fact, let's put it on the orange now. I'm just going to have to move it away because it's easier to get on if I'm holding the orange differently. Right, so if it's on the orange, it is much easier to stitch things in. That's not a wrong way up, isn't it? Bless him. It is easier to stitch things in place, and it's easier to hold. So that's his head. Oh, I nearly did a wobble on the camera there. I think I did do a little wobble. Right, back to the stone colour for a foot. Same. You're going to know what's going to happen. It's going to be amigurumi again. It's amigurumi all over the place. So we have 2 chain. We have 6 double crochets. I'm sure I've moved camera. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. 2 double crochets in each to give us 12 stitches. 1. This is number 2 for 2. Number 3 for 2. Number 4. Number 5. And our last one, number 6. So we have 12 stitches now. We are not going to go any bigger than 12 stitches for this little chap. So I'm going to, I know it's hard to squeeze your stitch marker in now, unless you've got a very small one. I should have got a smaller one out. But I'm going to start there. And I'm just going to do 3 rounds of 1 double crochet into each one. So off we go. It's 12 stitches if you want to count it. It does make it neater if you do. But I'm really going to just use the stitch marker because of me talking as well. So around we go. It'll start to curl again, so you will need to push it back out. So that's my first round. Push it back out, make it easier for yourself by doing that. Our second double crochet round. Nearly there. I was actually counting it then. Just make sure I'm all right. 10, 11 and 12. It was just checking I had actually got 12. Sometimes it's good to count them. So one more round of just double crochet, so I'll count this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, just 2 more, 11 and 12. Right, now we need to do a bit of decreasing, and it is basically just 2 double crochets together till the whole thing closes up. So we don't need this, but don't close the whole thing up until you pop a bit of stuffing in. Make sure that one's nice and tight. In fact, you can push that one in out of the way. Always make sure it's tight. If you're ever worried about that bit coming undone, it is worth maybe popping a little knot in it right at the base where this is, because it can happen. I have had it happen, but usually as long as you're tight enough, it's okay. So 2 together till closed. So 2 together, 2 together. So we don't need to count them because you're just going to keep going round at 2 together. I think we need some stuffing. I think that might be enough because I don't want the hole to get too small, do I? So again, stuffing, and I think scissors. That might be enough. I'm going to cut that bit of stuffing off. Just push the remainder in. And carry on with 2 together. And you get it as tight as you possibly can. The thing is, you're going to be using it to that part to sew onto his body, so if you're careful with your sewing, you wouldn't see it anyway. So I'm going to leave it at that. Trim, make sure you've got enough on the end there for sewing him up, and I'm going to pull it too. So we have a head and we have a foot now. One more thing needs to be added, which is the tail. So it's just a little tiny version of the rest, really. So slip knot, 2 chain, 6 double crochets into that first chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Now this gets fiddly. I really don't enjoy doing things at this sort of size when it's just 6 stitches, because you really have to make sure you count. And basically we just got 3 rounds of double crochet into each of those 6, so we have to really watch where we're going. Make sure you do count. 1, 2, because it'll really curl in on itself. 3, 4, 5 and 6. It is curling in something terrible, so I'm going to tighten that first. Just take my hook out a second and push this out to the right side. If you need something to push it out with, be careful though so it doesn't make a hole. So you can see I've got sort of a little tiny point there. So we need 2 more rounds of just 1 double crochet in each. Off we go. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Nearly went in the wrong one. So again, it's starting to get a little bit fiddly to get in, but we've just got 1 more round, so you'll do it. You can do it. 1, 2. See, I would mention before I sort of keep my finger in the way to keep the 2 sides separate. It's 3, I think. Oh, let's count then. 4, 5 and 6. You can do the slip stitch if you want, but we're going to be using sewing up area, so it won't be necessary. Enough yarn to sew onto the body, and that's his tail. So that is all the parts that you need. Obviously we need another 3 feet there, don't we? But essentially that is it. We have all our details for the turtle. The face can be put on afterwards. I'm just going to sew on a couple of bits just to go through it with you, because I know not everybody, you need to sew these in first really, but obviously for demonstration purposes I'm not doing. So I'm going to take his head, thread it onto my needle. This is where you need to make sure you leave long ends. You don't want to have to really be adding on yarn to sew up, because it's another end sew in, so it's a pain. So decide on which way his little head is going. So that's my front here. So all I'm going to do first is just anchor him where I want him. So that is where I want him. And then I'm going to be picking up one of the stitches just slightly above, and then picking one of the stitches up on the piece. Now this is really hard for me because I normally have this up against my body to do, so forgive me if the stitching's not as neat as it should be. But basically you're picking up a stitch around his neck and a stitch on the orange. Stitch around his neck. You see, I'm doing it just above. I'm not picking up that last bit. I'm picking up just a little bit above, especially when I get to this top bit, because by doing that it pulls his head up a little bit. Next, I want his head to stick out. I don't want it to sort of be floppy, do I? And one more, I think. And we will make a little knot. Make sure it's nice and tight. And I'm going to thread this through his head. Looks a little bit barbaric, doesn't it? But I'm sure he won't mind, not just yet. So my 3 times, because I have a tendency to do that. And I trim. And there we have our little head. It looks a little bit funny without his little mouth and everything, but I think for some reason that one looks a big one. I think I put more stuffing in that one. Amazing how stuffing can sort of change the shape of things, and it sort of stretches everything out. So you're going to follow the same with the feet and the same with the tail. Now I put the tail on second because I'm like, well, that gets me an equal position so I could roughly work out where my feet go. Some people like to pin them in place. That's quite a good idea, so you know where they're going. But it only takes a few stitches. Make sure it's nice and solid though. It's not going to come off. But basically that is our little tortoise. I keep calling it a turtle. It's not a tortoise. It would have flippers if it was a turtle, I know. So here he is, looking all cute in all his glory. I hope you're going to have a go at it. If you do enjoy my videos, don't forget to subscribe, like and share. It does help all us YouTubers if you do. And perhaps this could make a little teacher's present. Like I say, any of the chocolate oranges gifts could make a teacher's present, couldn't they? But here he is, and I'm really pleased with him. Hope you like him too, and I will see you all very soon with the next video. Bye bye for now.